Hey everybody, I wanted to go over some time management tips for getting through a lesson on time. So let's get started. Tip number one is to be prepared. So know your lesson, know the steps, have a plan of action, highlight some sections you want to spend more time on, and mark sections you can cut if needed. So let's talk about what that looks like. So overall, you'll read through the entire lesson plan, you'll look through it, you'll mark some things in the lesson plan that you may need to have noted for when you're actually in the room to give you some quick reminders. But it's really important that you've gone over all the steps that you're going to be going through and the book readings and make some notes for yourself. So here's an actual page from one of the student books. And I made a copy of it, and then I made some notations that were on here so that I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about a community. I might even talk about when we say the word work together, we're going to say it out loud. I'm going to get my main point across. Some of these other things that aren't highlighted, I'm going to skim through or go over very quickly, or I might even cut out. If I have time, I might ask this question, but again, if I don't have time, I'm going to cut it out here. I might have an alternative activity or just cut this completely. So when you've gone over the lesson and you know it in and out, when you're in front of the kids, this is really the time that you can say, I know where I can skim or add some more sections in there. So being prepared is extremely important. Let's go to tip number two. Tip number two is good behavior management. And if you want some more information on this, please watch the YouTube series on good behavior management and the tips that are there. So some really important things that you need to know, other than giving assertive, specific, authoritative commands to your kids and making sure they're on track, is that you need to nip any undesired behavior quickly. And you can do so by moving around the room and having proximity. Take your teacher book with you, walk around as you're teaching. And so when you're passing by your students and you're seeing something you're not supposed to be seeing, like they're poking a friend or talking or off task, you can just tap them on the shoulder or point to their book or give them a shh, be quiet sign right there. Try to do nonverbal cues as much as you possibly can. That way you can keep teaching while you're giving some of those cues. And quiet attention getters are really, really helpful. So you can have them repeat your clapping, like 1, 2, 3, or you can do, if you hear my voice, clap once, or you can say 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. So any kind of an attention getter to get them back on track if you notice your class is off topic is really helpful. So tip number 3 are countdowns, and countdowns are great time management savers. And you can give rewards at the end of a countdown, like stickers or table points to have an extra incentive involved. You don't have to do that, but they're extra, which are fantastic. So you might say something like this: I want every single person on page 52, and the table that gets to 52 the fastest will get a table point. So here we go. I'm going to give you a countdown: 10, 9, 8, and the table that's on page 52 the quickest can get a point. So this gives them a quick time to get there. So you might have your class like on topic and on schedule and on task in like 30 seconds instead of 3 to 5 minutes. So countdowns are a wonderful tip. Tip number 4, know when to cut, summarize, or move on. So this is really important for tip number 1 to be used in order for you to use tip number 4. Because if you don't know your lesson plan, you don't have pre-prepared things that you can cut and move on and or summarize. Read the room of your class. So I was teaching a lesson a couple weeks ago, and it was a letter to Paul, and the preschoolers were just completely getting absolutely bored with the book reading that we were doing, and so I just stopped right there. But I remembered the reading that we were going to give. And so instead of having us read it as a class, I just showed them some visuals and I summarized it in a very animated way. And I got a couple of the kids involved, and they were able to be on task a lot better with my summarization than reading the book. And if I hadn't been prepared, I wouldn't have been able to know how to do that. So feel your room and know when you're like, we just need to cut this activity for time, or I need to summarize this because I'm just losing them. And that really helps when you know your lesson. Tip number 5, not everybody can be heard. And it's fantastic whenever you ask a question and every hand goes up in the air and just want to get to all of them, but you just don't play and have time. So you have some other alternatives. They could tell a neighbor their answer really quickly and give like a short amount of time, like 10 seconds or something. You could have smaller groups. So instead of having the large discussion, you do have 2 launch leaders. You could divide your room in half and give more people the opportunity to talk. You could say, oh, if you have your answer, you can either write it down or draw a picture. And again, count that down. Say you've got like 10 seconds to write down your answer or draw your picture. And then they could share it with people at their table for another like 20 seconds. Or everybody says the answer out loud. And so you might say something like, how do you love Jesus? And then everybody shouts out an answer. And then you give them a quiet signal. And then you say, wow, that was a lot of answers. I heard. And then you could say a couple responses that you heard. You could also take 2 or 3 responses from the group answer. The last tip, number 6, is discussion is more important than reading. And what I mean by this is, although we like to have our students have opportunities to each read and to shine in the classroom, and so we go around the room and do what's called round robin reading. So we say like, Timmy reads, the first paragraph, and Bobby reads the second one, and Trinity reads the third one. That's fantastic in a school setting, but here, for students who are not fluent readers and who are not academically focusing on reading, this might give them a time of not feeling so excited about reading, because we're calling them out to read in front of their peers, and they may not be fantastic readers. And also, if they're not good fluent readers, it takes a long time and takes time out of our reading. So the easier and faster way is either choral reading with the whole group reading at the same time, the teacher reading through it quickly, or dropout reading, which is that everybody reads and a student can drop out from a word they don't know and then come back in after they've done that. So those are good techniques to get through reading quicker. And the reason we want to get through the reading quicker is because a lot of the time the students won't retain what they've just read, but they will retain if they had a conversation or interaction with that reading. So I'm going to give you an example. Say that you are at a presentation at a conference and somebody is giving you a PowerPoint and they're just reading off the PowerPoint, just line by line, word by word. It's kind of boring. You're probably not going to remember very much from that PowerPoint. But if they get you involved in the PowerPoint, you guys have small group discussion or conversation, or they make it interactive, you're going to remember that more. So for our discussion is more important than reading is what that's meaning. And it saves time and it's more engaging. Go through the reading quickly and then go into detail about it through explanation, verbal explanation, class explanation. So these are some tips to get through your lesson in time in a quick manner to save you some of those boring moments of reading and to get to the more fun, interactive, engaging parts of your lessons. Thank you for listening, and good luck on your lessons. Bye-bye.